We're discussing the setting up at the presidential retreat that kicked off yesterday. The new kind of arrangement, there's now a result delivery unit. And in the president's words, I've taken a young lady, very dynamic, Hadiza Bola Usman, to head that delivery unit. And if you have any complaints about her, see me. The president also said there that he was going to be granting, a substantial amount of autonomy to all these functionaries. If you don't understand anything, ask questions. But that says to me that the president also expects that within the brief of the Renewed Hope agenda, the president expects, his functionaries, his officials to be self-starters. Ken, you had referred to that earlier, using the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory as an example of people who, on their own initiative, on their own steam, have gotten some difference from the way things were once the president was persuaded that, you know what, that's not a bad idea at all.
That's the important thing about having a square peg in a square hole. When I was a commissioner, I remember we didn't have the governor written down our necks, but we had a check from another commissioner who was sitting in the executive council of the state, monitoring us in the sofa deck, and that put all of us on our toes, and we had set deliverables, and it helped us to achieve so much as we achieved as at that time. I remember I did as much as 90 projects. You understand? And maybe if we didn't have all those checks in place, some of us would not have performed as we performed as at that time. When you are in the executive, you have a budget. You can't work outside your budget. Budget is an appropriation, is a law.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're also working, in your budget presentation, that's also a set of deliverables. You must be able to encapsulate the programs tailored towards what you have presented in the Federal Executive Council to be able to be funded in the budget. And when you have challenges, that is when you can run to the secretary to government or then to the president to say, look, I have challenges in funding. That is why I'm not performing. Because you don't expect a minister who does not have a funded budget, for example, to perform. Because contractors will not bid for a job that is not funded. And even when they bid for a job that is not funded, some of them will leave the site if they are not getting funds. And this process of having to go 6 months or 3 months in applying for certain parameters of payment for purchases and supplies are some of the issues that have to be taken care of in the retreat. If you notice, a lot of the ministers in time past have complained that this has enabled them not to perform because they are waiting for clearance. Even Umar here, as it was, talked about it. There should be either ways that we can use in checkmating this process of going through this very bureaucratic process, or maybe going to the Bureau of Public Purchase, or having to say because of checks and balances. We like checks and balances, but the ministers, for them to be able to say, look, I have this approved expressly so that I can immediately hit the ground running. These are certain parameters you must also look at, because if those hurdles are there and you now find the minister wanting, you cannot blame the minister. For example, a road job that you need 200 million to complete, and the budget has 50 million in your
Yeah.
How minister completes that road job?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Let me bring in Akin, who has called in from Ogun State. Good morning, Akin.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Uncle Yori, I think I have said most of the things I want to say a while ago, but what I want to add to it is if we can get this woman Hadiza Bola Usman's number published so that everybody who has any complaining ministers of praise can easily complain to her. We appreciate what our president is doing and we wish him well.
Very well. Very well. Thank you very much for calling in, Akin. You see now, Ken, I was telling you, Nigerians are immediately owning this whole concept. Aha! Very, very good. Please, can you give us that madam's number? We want to join.
I can't call order now because it's going to be made. She's a prefect, so to.
I know.
It's also important. Why it's important is that I like the fact that she was chief of staff to the president, to the former governor of Kaduna before she became the chairman of MPA. and now she's in this position. So she comes with a lot of experience. You can't take that away from those positions she has held.
Yes.
But like I reiterated here, let's also lose sight of the fact that either she needs consultants, but she needs a lot of assistance in that office. Because when I looked at the list of people that could attend FEC meetings, apart from her and probably the special advisor on information and strategy, there was no other. Obayo Nanuga. So there was no other person, so to say. So that therefore means that she will be the one sitting down with all the ministers. She goes back to her office. I know she will have consultants quite all right, but we need other people that can assist her in driving this process, because her own department has become very important, because with that check and balance is now coming from her own department, it's going to make the ministers work, but at the same time, it's going to also overwhelm her office. It's very important to also know.
If they're not very strategic about it. And as you said, there's plenty of experience there. The president even said it himself that, look, we have the manpower here. We have the qualitative manpower. The president said that inter alia. And here are Nigerians excited at the whole idea. Good morning, Reverend Dominic.
Good morning, Yori. Good morning, my brother, my friend Ken.
Good morning, Dominic.
Yori.
Here for
Yeah, Yori, there's something George said we must take a second look at, and we are glossing it. George said for this policy to work, for Mr. President to achieve results, all sectors, all parasites, civil servants must comply. But I'm going to give you a life testimony that makes me feel that there are some people who sabotage this system. I don't know whether power is still under the power ministry. I have an old meter I've been using since 10 years ago. I recharged it on Monday so I can have light. When I come to recharge it, it couldn't pick up the charges. It couldn't discharge. So I have to go to their office. They told me they have canceled my meter. I have to pay 150,000 for now one. I said, okay, can I pay and have another meter? They said no. Even if I pay now, I have to stay in business for 3 months before I get another meter. How do you cancel the old meter? And you didn't let me know. You have my email, you have my phone number, and we're talking about power here. You cancel my old meter, you don't have another new meter, and I have to be 3 months. And this meter, we have millions in Nigeria that use it. You just face it off without telling us. Now, where is my money, which I paid on Monday? They said that money is gone. Where is my money gone? For this system to work, Yori, every house must be on deck. There's no way Mr. President will achieve results if the civil servants, if the agencies are not cooperating. No, it's not possible. There's no nation that works without me, you, and everybody. And this is why I voted for the president. What he did in Lagos here, he put everybody on check. And some cooperate, some do not cooperate. In this dispensation, everybody must cooperate for Nigeria to work well. We are in desperate. Please, power holding Nigeria Limited. If they are still part of Nigeria, the minister should look out into that system again. How do you cancel meters? You have short of meters, and you don't have meters to replace them. You cancel millions of the one that was already working before. How does it work? And how will I say it is Mr. President that makes not to have power, but the power company or the power ministry? So every hands must be on deck for we to move forward. This is what we must, put to everybody. Every hands must be on deck. And if there's anybody else, we will fight it. Good morning, Nigerians.
Well, thank you. I had a difficulty in hearing what you were saying, but by and large, I think I got it. Thank you for calling in. That's not your problem. It was in studio here that the level was too low. Ken, as you will recall, these are matters that would squarely fall under someone's purview in the range of officials that are servicing the country. And the president had said inter alia that look, he gave the impression that that place where he said that perfection belongs only to God. So I got the impression that this whole project will be tweaked as we go along. What Reverend Dominic brought up there was something about this. Suddenly it's becoming so cumbersome to just switch meters, for instance. Okay, of course, that one goes straight away to somebody's department. Why is it like that? What can be done that is not being done? Why are Nigerians, for example, Look at the whole rocket science they're trying to make out of this whole matter about we need to switch up how we use our meters in compliance with a new world order. But people go on the website and cannot actually access the worksite yet. Yet we were being told that by the 1st of November, if you didn't have the new system in place, you would not be able to recharge your meter and that kind of thing. Maybe people have to ask, why are the systems like this? Why are they asking us to do all of this? Why can't it all be done automatically? Maybe technology, this is when we'll come to know, Ken, that whether or not we are really tech savvy, whether or not government is, falling down, as it were, whether or not there are things that can be done. Because me, I don't see how they can do a lot of things that they say we should be doing if you say all of Nigerians should now go and, process a change in the way the meters are used, yet it's not intuitive. We had this problem when the NIM thing came up. They were threatening us that if you don't have it, this will happen. And we had to keep on extending because it wasn't the fault of the people. So these are the areas where I imagine that tweaks will be made as we go along, but there's no gainsaying the fact that it is a mammoth operation.
Yeah, yes, the thing is monitoring and supervision, which boils down to the fact that you have decentralized the discos. You decentralize power.
Yes.
You are in charge of the TCN. The TCN has to monitor the GENCOs. The GENCOs have to now transmit power to the discos. The discos will now transmit power to us. So if there is no monitoring, if there is no evaluation of what has been implemented and take corrections from the lapses, you always see these things happen. Because you see, more often than not, when we talk of privatization, a lot of powers have been given to the discos. So the Ministry of Power is not doing its bit through the TCN. And so now that we have these new people coming on board, and now it also boils down to the same monitoring and evaluation we are talking about, we should be able to get better results from the discos. That disconnect that has been between the discos, the GENCOs, and TCN should be able to be bridged. And if you bridge that disconnect, the discos will now say, okay, they're properly monitored. The discos will now have no choice but to monitor their officials who are now put in charge of these meters and other parameters that are used in generating electricity to the houses. It's no gainsaying that people sit down in the comfort of their office these days, like you're rightly saying, if we're technologically savvy, and they are able to monitor, they're able to fashion out programs that would enable them get feedbacks from the end users. But we have not been able to get to that stage. And so while we are still trying to get to that stage, we need to implement these things by way of using it at a pyramidal peak, coming from top to bottom. And in that way, you'll be able to effectively monitor what is happening.
Well, the president also said that the buck stops here, meaning on his desk. It indicated that he wasn't going to be passing the buck around. He said he inherited both the assets and liabilities from his predecessor, but we're all now in one ship. And tellingly, he said, do not wreck the ship. In other words, everybody has to pull their weight, and it's not a time for excuses. People don't want to hear excuses. All we're interested in is progress and development. So it looks like there's very little room for explanation or excuses. They're just going to be asking for performance. I hear that we have Titi Loye. Did I get that right? Titi Loye. Titi Loye is on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Titi Loye.
Yes, I want to contribute to what is being done at this Bayom Kuyori.
Sure, sir. Go ahead, please.
Okay. My contribution is this. I want to thank Reverend Dominic for his contribution. That's very wonderful. I also want to lay my emphasis on that. As much as we have our President Tinubu that we know we so much, some of us believe in him so much, and we can see what some of the ministers are already doing. But if we are to move faster and achieve results, government must find a way of dealing with civil servants, dealing with those who are working with agencies and ministry. They are the major problem. For example, I'm a consultant. We got a taxpayer that was not on the taxnet before. We wanted him to be provided on tax promise. As we speak, we have been on it for more than a month. And we are calling them, they had a little issue on tax promise. Is it the taxpayer's fault or consultant's fault to rectify that issue? Somebody who wants to be paying tax to government, that the staff working at Everest are frustrating the taxpayer from being provided. What could be the problem? It's not normal for them to contact their head office if they're having problem. We've called, we've chatted, we've done everything. As we speak, they are no longer even attending to call, responding to chat, thinking that they are doing taxpayer any favor for doing what they are employed to do. Most of them are just there chatting, getting the money paid. Meanwhile, they are not even delivering results. They can frustrate whatsoever effort that the minister and government are putting in place. I think they need to be checked and measured effectively. The rate of recovery will be very slow compared to what President Tinubu and minister effort they are putting in place to make things work. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much for calling in on that, Mr. Titiloye. Exactly. Now there's very, very little shade, very little area to hide under when things are not working the way they should work. Already, both of us were here, Ken, when people were calling and saying, aha, now I'm happy. I also want to be in it. Somebody challenged us, bring in those ministers the way you used to bring them in before. Some of them. Bring more of them in. Let them come and tell us. Let them hear from us. So some of those things that are routine, the people would think, ordinary people would think, that are routine that perhaps governance would have been able to sort of address and put in place. When they're not in place, now they're going to count against perhaps the smoothness of the operation, this whole renewed hope operation. And so ministers are not going to be very tolerant of those kind of situations. They themselves will want to know what is the bottleneck, why is the bottleneck happening, and I imagine with those kind of things, they spoke about this whole power thing that you've explained, Ken. Other areas that the president also spoke about, security from terror, all forms of criminality, fairness and rule of law, anti-corruption, on all those kind of things. All of these are fair game that we have to be monitoring how well we are doing or not doing, because the provision has been left there for not doing. But you said it very well at the beginning, Ken, that the exercise is excellent, but let's see it work in practice, and that let's see it work in practice. I think the taste of the pudding. How is it that you Igbo people used to say it? Is in the eating.
It's actually in the eating. Because if you look at the security situation we have in this country, it should also set an agenda for the security architecture of the country, especially now that it has a new chief of staff or chief of defense staff, and you have a national security advisor. We have IPOB in the southeast threatening the very existence of, although of course they're asking for self-determination, but you have the other arm which has been led by Simon Ekpa, which has been threatening the very existence of the people as regards sit at home, which has crippled the economy of the southeast. We have Boko Haram still raging in the northeast, and we have the bandits kidnapping and the farmer and herders clashes. Yes, it's not as it was before now, but the security architecture in this country still needs a lot of rejigging. So I think parameters should also be set by Mr. President for the security agencies, for them to also know that they're going to be evaluated. That way they will be put on their toes. Remember that we complained so much. I remember on this studio, I complained so much when the chief of army staffs and a whole lot of them were left for about 6 years by Buhari without making any change. And we're complaining that, look, we needed to rejig, until eventually reluctantly rejigged. So now, if we also set those parameters in the security arm, which is very key, without security, there can be no progress. It will also allow them to know that, look, my job is on the line, and I have to make sure that there is no crime. I have to make sure that there is no kidnapping. I have to make sure that there is no killing. And I have to make sure that there is no ethnic upheavals. So that also helps a lot in the security sector, just like what he has done in the tax sector. The Tax Reform Committee has done excellently well. Most of the double taxation and most of us have complained in the time past have really told on the economy they have been able to identify. But let us put the paper to work so that it will not be one that has just been submitted to the president as we have seen in the time past. So these are some of the areas that need to be dealt with in this retreat.
Indeed. Well, by all indications, it does seem as if this particular initiative, one among quite a few that have been brought about since President Tinubu took the oath of office, this particular initiative has been a hit, and everybody hopes that it will work. And the president is very, very confident that it will work the way it has been set up. But he also left room that, look, only God is perfect, meaning my interpretation is that whatever needs to be tweaked will be tweaked. I just need to, people know me. If they think they've suspected a gap or a lapse or anything like that, let me know about it, and then we can review it. We can fix these things. Among those things are some of the things that you have spoken about, Ken. So we're going to have to leave it here for now. But I want to thank you, Mr. Ken Okolubo, for coming on the program this morning. Really appreciate your time. And also thanks to all those who called in out there. And indeed, your comments have been noted. Some of those who said that we want to see those ministers. Let them also come and talk with us. We've been talking with some of them. Let it not stop. Let us continue to see them. Indeed, that shall be the case, all other things being equal. So that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folare. Bye-bye for now.